Hey guys, it's Super Maggie here. It's been a long time since I made a video. Previously I was Paladin and I changed to a monk. I thought I would do this video because I just finished doing Challenge Mode Gold as a Mistweaver, and there's not much information out there for Mistweavers for healing in these challenge modes, so I thought I would do a video on them. A lot of people say Mistweavers are trash and they can't heal 5-mans. It's probably the reason why no one's playing them in challenge mode. And I thought I'd just give my opinion on it. They aren't as bad as everyone makes them out to be, for one. They can heal these. I did it with a warrior tank, who's also kind of shunned out of the way warrior tanks. No one really wants them in challenge modes. So we had the warrior and a Mistweaver duo, and we still managed to do it. So it is possible. You can do these. Don't let the haters and the players who can't, are not able to do it put you off. You can definitely do it. I think a lot of the hate comes from other healers who have an alt, say an alt Mistweaver, or someone who's rerolled a Mistweaver, and they're trying to play Mistweaver like a classic healer, like a monk, like a druid or a priest or whatever. They're trying to play a monk similar to that, and it's completely different. The play style is different. There's a lot more going on, and they can't do it, and they just go straight on the forums and say Mistweavers are banned 5-mans, which isn't true. Those players just whatever, just ignore them. You guys can do it. Trust me. Anyone who loves this class, I love this class. You can do it. Trust me. To start out, I will tell you what gear to go for. I guess for anyone who's not really sure, you want to get crit multi-strike on as much pieces as possible. Multi-strike is invaluable. It's free healing, and DPS is just extra heals or attacks, just really good, especially in challenge modes. Just free healing, like can't get better than that. Like free healing. These things can get pretty intense. A lot of with the pools, you could see yourself run out of mana. So multi strike's definitely really good. Also, the crit, because you get mana back, you get bigger heals, and when you spend 4 chi, you have a chance equal to your crit to get an extra stack of mana to you. So your crit is really good to have. It's just a nice little thing to just have in the back, uh, doing work when you're healing, pretty much. Whereas the mastery gives you the healing spheres. These healing spheres, like the amount of mastery you get, like the amount of like healing you get from mastery is nothing. Like it is terrible in the challenge modes. Healing spears they just don't do anything. I would not recommend taking any mastery. Haste, haste can be like useful if you need to just for like for other healers for instance for casting, but for us as a Mistweaver we have Soothing Mist, which is just our channel, and then we can spam Surging Mist on the target, which is instant, so we don't really have any problems with casting. Like if someone's dying, we don't need to keep spamming those casts. We have like a constant instant cast with our Soothing Mist, so haste isn't a big deal for us. Lastly, Spirit. You will want this on every off piece. From my experience healing, you will need the Spirit. You should be taking Spirit anyway, even when you're not doing these challenge modes. The Spirit is such a good stat for any healer. Just being able to have an idea, like I feel like when you have the Spirit, you get an idea of how much you can and can't handle when you have spirit items. Because obviously, if you rely more on like crit, and getting a chance on getting extra mana tea, you're kind of playing into an RNG game, whereas like sometimes you might be able to heal something, and then next try you might not go the crits, you might not have the mana tea, so then you can't actually heal the certain fight. By taking Spirit, you get rid of that whole kind of RNG, I don't know how much I will be able to heal. You have a more rough idea of how much you can and can't handle by having Spirit items because your mana is more consistent. So I would take Spirit. You'll want it on your neck, obviously it rings, and I have a trinket. This is a Spirit one. This trinket is really good, technically giving you Spirit, useful, and you also get multi-strike, so you're getting free healing from that as well. So it's a lot of mana regen and free healing going on there. So definitely. Also, this trinket, the alchemy trinket, this trinket is the best trinket for challenge modes, hands down, for any healer. Just the mana potions, getting all that mana back, it's so nice. If you don't have this trinket and you're wanting to heal challenge modes, I would recommend getting it. You can do the challenge modes without it, but you're going to be in a better place if you do have this trinket. 100% you'll be in a much better place for healing these. And that pretty much sums up the items. Like, I don't even have some of the best items here. As you can see, I still managed to pull the challenge modes off. So if you do have the best optimal gear, it will make life a lot easier. To go into talents right now, I have a look at these talents. Personally, I'll tell you the talents I used and like kind of why I used them. For the first talents, like tree, I would go with Tiger's Lust if you're trying to heal these. Just from my experience of being a healer, I'm quite a support healer as well. I'm a healer, so I figure I'm a support kind of class. So Tiger's Lust to me is just great. Speed boost on my group, speed boost on me, gets out roots, snares. It's good for me and my group. Whereas momentum and slightly more of a personal, I need to move, doesn't really help anyone. And movement increases from momentum, whatever, I got Tiger's Lust. And the extra roll, I was like, oh, I don't really need to roll anymore. There wasn't any situations where I thought, oh, I really need to roll. So I wouldn't bother taking that one. Next tree, Chi Wave. I tried it. It didn't do enough for me personally when I was healing. And it's another thing, like you might be spamming a tank, for instance, and you have to throw it out there, and then to get the most use of it, you have to be using it a lot. And sometimes you just can't use it. Like sometimes you will need to heal your tank, spam them, you'll be taking loads of damage, and it just goes to waste. Like it's up, you're not using it. It's just, I just didn't see it being good. Zen Spear, I didn't like this because obviously it does when I need AoE healing, it has to burst. So like obviously after the 16 seconds it will detonate, does damage, and then it heals people around 10 yards. And it just didn't feel like that's too much time to go off to AoE heal for me personally. Like people are dying and I need the AoE heal, it just doesn't do it for me. The healing just wasn't enough and it takes too long to AoE heal. Chi Burst, this is my favourite one, I think it's the best one. It does really good damage. It heals a lot. 30-second cooldown. The one thing, my complaint with some of the monk things, I guess, is positional requirement. You need to move yourself in a way that's going to hit people. I think that's one of the reasons some Mistweavers struggle in challenge modes, is because there's a lot of like talents and whatnot. You need to position yourself to heal, whereas some healers don't have that problem. Definitely take this. It's one of your, it's pretty much like your best AoE heal. You'll be using it. Whenever AoE damage is coming, you want to just wait and then use it. Boom. Really good. Next tree, we have Power Strikes, Ascension and Chi Brew. Power Strikes, I didn't use it. When the challenge mode, it's good to have cooldown stuff on demand when it's needed. This is more of a thing I see as a kind of DPS. If you're a DPS monk in a raid, for instance, and you want a DPS heal, or if there's a lot of damage and you need the constant chi because you're just spamming uplift for days, I can see Power Strikes being useful, but in challenge modes, no. Ascension, the extra chi and the spirit, not a big deal. It doesn't do anything amazing. It's just a flat increase, which I didn't find was great when I have Chi Brew. The Chi Brew, the best one in the tree, it gives you 2 Chi when you need it. It gives you Mana Tea, so you get mana from it, you get Chi from it. It's a recharge, you have 2 of them to begin with, so you can just use 2 of them if you need. You should be using it like pretty much all the time, at least one. Maybe save one for the pack or whatever that's coming up, but you should be trying to use it. So like if you got no chi, you want to just use it to get 2 chi before, like, as the fight stand. You just want to get the mana tea stacks up, so you have the mana, you have mana tea there when you need it. And it's great for DPS as well. You can just use Chi Brew and then go into using your Blackout Kick or Rising Sun Kick. It's DPS cooldown and a healing cooldown. It's great. Next you have CC. The only CCs I would take in this tree are Oxwave and Leg Sweep. Pretty much you want to take Leg Sweep most of the time. It's 5 seconds, it's great, the visual's really good, everyone can see it clearly, and it's the main one you want to take. I would take Oxwave though if there's a lot of damage in melee, like there's a lot going on in melee, or there's fire on the ground or whatever. You'll want to take Oxwave because it's just it's safer. It's a lot safer to just get the stun there without you running in there. And also as you're running in, you're not healing, so definitely take that one if there's a lot on the ground. Or there's mobs that cleave or whatnot. You'll want to take that. 75, we have Diffuse Magic, Dampen Harm, Healing Elixirs. Now, Healing Elixirs I used in 1 or 2 of the dungeons. When I felt like there wasn't much magic damage, you typically want to run Healing Elixirs just because it's free healing when you're drinking your Mana Tea. And obviously you're drinking Mana Tea a lot, and also you get when you drop below 35%, you get the effect from it, the heal from it. So this is really strong. You want to take this if there's no magic damage, but if apart from that, you want Diffuse Magic. If there's any magic, Diffuse Magic is the one to go for. It's so strong, slow cooldown, and whenever the raid's taking magic damage, you can just use Diffuse Magic, you're not taking anything, one less person to heal, and it makes their life a lot easier. Now we have the 90 tree, and my opinion on this tree is you want to take the Tiger. Now the Tiger, you get healing from it, from the Eminence, and you also get damage from it. So the Tiger is really useful because when you pull any big pack, for instance in UBRS, the first room you will pull 2 rooms and 1 pack, so you have 3 packs in the 1 room. Now you can use Tiger there if you wanted to, and that Tiger will be doing damage, so the mobs die faster and you'll be getting healing from it, and then it allows you to heal while it's also healing, so it makes it a lot easier on you for healing wise, and stuff dies faster, so you won't be healing for as long, which makes this really strong. In the UBS, it was really useful because my warrior tank thinks he's a blood DK, so he also went upstairs and pulled 3 of the rooms up top because he's a man. So you will want a Tiger definitely for any big pulls. And it's also really good for bosses, just the extra damage. Speeds up the challenge modes. It makes it a lot faster and easier. As I said before, I don't like Slurry, so Chi Torpedo, I don't take it. And it's also a positional thing, which is also annoying, so you have to aim it and fire off in the direction. And also, the other thing with it is if you need to roll from an ability and you have Chi Torpedo, you will Chi Torpedo. And then you've taken a talent that's a healing talent and you've used it to move, not to heal. So it becomes pretty useless in a 5-man environment. And it can also get in bad situations. If you want to use it and you go flying into melee, for instance, you might get hit by abilities and die. So Chi Torpedo, I would not take this in challenge modes. Russian Jade Wind, I love this thing, but not in challenge modes. It costs too much mana and I need to go and stand on top of my group, so it needs to be stacked, and it just costs too much mana and it's a positional thing I need to stack. Now we'll move on to the last tree, 100. Now before 6.1 I was pretty much only using Pulling Mist. Pulling Mist increases Renewing Mist healing and gives us more damage because we can use Rising Sun Kicks more because we get the charges of it, which adds up to a lot of burst damage, especially if you have Chi Brew. You can like do so much damage. On Witherbark for instance, in Everbloom I was doing about 20 to 22k DPS when he had the buff on him, the damage debuff. So Pulling Mist was extremely strong there, lots of damage, and it gives you Chi when you need it. You just use Renew Mist, you got charges of it, you can get Chi whenever you need it, and it makes it a lot easier to, for instance, if you need the uplift, it makes it easier for uplifting, and it also makes it easier to keep up Enveloping Mist on the tank, so then you can use, so you get extra healing from Soothing Mist. So I would pretty much run this talent all the time. I did try Chi Explosion. It was I tried this in 6.1. It was really good on UBRS in the first boss, for instance, because you're stacked on a platform, and you really benefit from it because, well, I've obviously we use the free chi. You gain the additional effect of it heals everyone within 8 yards, all allies, and because you're all stacked and you're all so close together, it's actually useful in that situation because you're getting a lot of you're getting AoE healing out of it because it's hitting everyone. But if people aren't grouped up together and stacked, this talent kind of just goes to waste because you're not getting the benefit of people, especially if you've ranged who are all spread out everywhere. If you have like 3 ranged, for instance, like this talent, like don't even bother taking it. It's only really good if you have melee, like a heavy melee, or if you're stacking and you're all going to benefit from the AoE healing from it. Breath of Serpent, I tried this in 6.1. The healing from it is not worth it, to be honest. All it is like a mini raid cooldown pretty much in your dungeon, but the healing is so small, it doesn't do enough, and it's a positional requirement which you have to prepare for and make sure everyone's in it, and it just didn't do enough healing. Like in one of the runs I used it like pretty much every time it was off cooldown, and I could, and my T-Burst was doing more AoE healing than Breath of the Serpent, and I only use T-Burst, I use it like pretty frequently for damage and obviously AoE healing, But this talent, like Breath of Serpent, it was getting out healed by T-Burst pretty much pretty hard. So, and the healing it was doing when I used it wasn't really amazing. Even my group were saying, what the fuck is that? It's not healing for anything. So don't bother using that one. Stick to Pulling Mist majority of the time, and maybe use T-Explosion on, for instance, UBRS or any fights that you need to stack, and everyone will benefit from the AoE healing. Now, for glyphs, typically glyphs weren't such a big deal, I thought anyway. I used pretty much these ones, but I did swap like Fortifying Brew, Soothing Mist and Renew Mist. I did swap it out, I think it was Soothing Mist I swapped out for Detox, because in certain dungeons having 2 dispels was really useful. Like Blood Maw Slag Mines, it was useful. It was also useful, say, Burial Grounds for getting rid of the bat poison. You can clear it pretty fast, you get 2 stacks, so it's a lot easier to heal stuff when you have that. And like Everbloom, it was useful as well. So you want to take this on those dungeons. Whenever there's dispelling, you want this. It makes life a lot easier. You can just stop the debuffs from getting high, stacking like poisons. You can remove them, and it makes healing a lot easier. Apart from that, these are the ones I ran. Renew Mist, jumping further. It's always nice. Some people go far away. It's nice to just have it bounce to them. Also, Fortifying Brew, damage reduction. I always like damage reduction over health. Any day, for me anyway. I prefer it. I know some people like having more HP. It's up to you, but I would go for this one. And the movement speed increase from your Soothing Mist can also be quite nice. Apart from that, I wouldn't really take anything else. Like you could take other glyphs, but I feel like these glyphs are like the best ones, and then you just swap in the Purifying. You can take Expel Harm as well, I guess, if you want it, but it doesn't make that much of a difference, I feel. As long as you have, as long as you take the cleanse, the detoxing one on the dispel fights, you're pretty much fine. Okay, so that's pretty much the gear and the talents and glyphs done. I'll now go over my general thought on how to heal on a Mistweaver for anyone who's struggling in these challenge modes. Basically, when you play Mistweaver, you always want your statue down. It's like the first thing you do when you pull packs, you statue down and then you start healing. The stances are, you basically will be in Serpent the whole time unless you see opportunities to DPS. When the damage is low, you can go Spirit Crane and DPS, and that you want to do that. That will benefit your group. If you can DPS, you should DPS. Try it whenever you can. It'll make run a lot faster. Stuff will die faster. That's our niche. Our niche is DPS healing. That's the whole reason you want to play Mistweaver, is so you can do stuff like that. Granted, I don't like how it has the global cooldown. Like, people die in that global cooldown. Like, people could die in that, which is a bit annoying. But most of the time when you switch into Crane, you know no one's going to die. So definitely abuse the fact that you can DPS. Touch of Death. Now this is like another thing. This is the best thing ever. You will want to abuse this all the time. You should be using this on cooldown pretty much. It's another reason why Pulling Mist is so great, because you have free charges. you can get chi really easily, so you can touch a death. You 1.5 minute cooldown, you can touch a death so much stuff and make the run so much easier. You can use it on bosses, you can use it in any trash packs where like a certain mob hits really hard. You will want to use this, and like just use it. Use it all the time. I use this all the time, and it's great. Now, you want to have your interrupt bound. If you don't have it bound, you need to bind this, because you will need to interrupt stuff as a monk, and it's nice having an interrupt for monks. Like you should definitely make use of this for your interrupt. Like especially in Auchendarren, there's stuff to interrupt in every single dungeon, and if you need that extra interrupt, you're always there to interrupt. Obviously, you don't want to be trying to interrupt when there's a lot of melee damage going on, and you know if you're going there you're going to get hurt. So preferably you want to try and do the interrupts where you know it's safe, it's fine. So try and get your group to give you the interrupt that's safe, that it's not going to be any damage or CC or whatever when you go into interrupt. Now, Thunder Focus Tea. Now this is extremely powerful, and a lot of monks don't use this like enough. You should be using this pretty much. I use this pretty much all the time. Like the best way to use this is don't use it on Renewing Mist. It's wasted. You want to save this for your Surging Mist. So whenever a tank's going to be taking a lot of damage, you want to use this. If you know there's a big pool, you want to use this. Like use it like the first big hit he takes. Like when he takes that big hit, initial hit that drops him to like half HP, you should use Thunder Focus Tea, Surging Mist. It saves mana, and it's there to be used. Like use it. 45-second cooldown. It's going to be up again. You're going to save mana by using it, because you won't need to use Surging Mist as much. And it's also really great if someone else in your group takes damage, and say for instance your tank's got cooldown, so he's not taking damage, someone else takes damage, you can just switch straight to them and heal them full, and then go back to the tank and then start channeling to him. So use this. It's really strong, and it doesn't get enough love, I feel. Next we have, I'm at the back page. We have Transcendence. This is really strong, especially on UBRS, the first boss. You can put your clone up top, and then you can, for the first two, obviously, for my group anyway, for the first two, I was going down, and my tank went down, so the DPS could do more. So you drop down, and then you do the trap thing, the ledge thing, I don't even know what it's called. You do that, and then you teleport back up. Saves time, you won't take much damage, and you get straight back in there for healing the group. It's really strong. You should abuse this whenever possible. Next thing, obviously we have Soothing Mist. This is our main heal. You'll be wanting to use this all the time, pretty much, on the tank. When he's taking damage, you want to just be Soothing Mist into him. When he's taking damage from mobs, like a slow, steady damage, you can Soothing Mist into him. And what you generally want to do in 5-man healing is you want to Soothing Mist onto the person who's taking damage, and then Surging Mist. I know a lot of monks out there who will they'll try and uplift. Someone will take a massive chunk of damage, and they like try and uplift. Like say 2 people take damage, one of them's like tank's taking damage, one other person takes like a little bit of damage and then one takes a big chunk of damage. People will actually use Uplift. You do not want to do that. You want to Serve Mist on the one that took the chunk of damage, and then you want to Surge and Mist and heal them up. You also have your Thunder Focus Tea, so make use of that if you have it. That's how you generally heal people up. You only really want to use Uplift when it's 5 people, for instance, taking damage. If everyone's taking damage, you should Uplift. But first, when everyone takes damage, you want to use your Chi Burst first to heal everyone. Then you want to use Uplift. Obviously, you'll have your new mists out there. Then you want Uplift. But if you know your tank's got a cooldown on, and you know other DPSs have like personals, this is where you get a sense of like how much damage you can and can't heal. Like certain classes won't take as much damage as others, or can mitigate damage. So you should be working with your group to understand on who needs healed and who doesn't. For instance, if it's magic damage and your DK has AMS up, you know that he's safe. So you know, like, even if he is half HP, he is AMS. But you don't need to Uplift instantly. Like, you can Serve and Mist and then Surge and Mist heal people up. And it's really fast. Serve and Mist, Surge and Surge and Serve and Mist, Surge and Surge, and then people are like, everyone's like full again. You should only be really using Uplift when you know everyone's taking damage and your Chi Burst's on cooldown. That's when you should be using Uplift. And then if it gets really bad, that's when you start using stuff like Revival. When you know the AoE healing's getting too hard and you Uplift isn't healing enough and no one has personals, so you can't just like serving and then surging people up because everyone's taking damage and no one can mitigate any, that's when you want to use Revival. But apart from that, you only really want to Uplift when it's everyone and everyone taking damage. You should generally try and single target heal people up individually and use Chi Burst first. Pretty much we have like Detonated Chi as well. Like this can heal pretty decent if you have Spheres down, and it can add to AoE healing if needed. I didn't really feel like I needed to use this when I was doing challenge modes. I felt like doing it the way I've just told you, I never really ran into these problems. I think with Mistweavers is a lot of people who've played other healers, they seem to think like they can recover from, like a lot other classes can recover from AoE like quite well. Monks can do that, but you generally need to have your Chi Burst, or you need to have like Tiger or Revival. When it gets to the point where everyone's taking constant damage, you're uplifting. Your uplift probably won't. It doesn't do enough healing to save like everyone, like really fast. So when you're healing, you really want to try and keep people topped as much as possible as a monk when you're healing these. Like soothing, surging, mist anyone who's just getting a little bit low. Like you just want to keep everyone full, because unless you have your cooldowns, AoE healing when everyone's low, it can get pretty rough. You really want to use your revival. You want to save revival for any fights you know will be a lot of AoE healing. Try and not burn it beforehand if possible, but if you do, really try and get the max use out of your Chi Burst, and if it does come down to it, you can use Spinning Crane Kick. But I never really found myself in that situation from healing them. Obviously, Enveloping Mist, you want to keep that on your tank. You serve mist into them. It's great. You can also, like, if someone other than the tank takes damage, you will want to use it on them. If another, say a DPS is taking a lot of damage, you can use your free chi to use Enveloping Mist on them, and then Surging Mist and heal them up fast, and then go straight back to the tank. Don't be afraid to use Enveloping Mist on other people. Some people will only use this on tanks. You can use it on anyone. Just remember to keep that in mind. Expel Harm, you should use this whenever your health is getting affected. You should use Expel Harm just for the self heal. I pretty much used it every time I took damage from anything. I would use Expel Harm. I can't really say... Oh yeah, Cocoon. This Cocoon is really powerful and it absorbs like tons. It's amazing. And also increases your periodic healing received by them. It's really strong. Like whenever you're doing big pulls, you'll want to cocoon them. And what I find is really strong about Cocoon is you can cocoon your tank at the beginning of the pull, and then that's just damage and mitigate to begin with, and it's like nothing to heal. So if you pull a big pack and you cocoon him at the beginning of the pack, and say he's not used any cooldowns, it's that period of him taking no damage is just time for your DPS to really burn down those mobs. And when he starts taking damage, the mob's already taking a lot of damage, so there's not much left to heal. Like the length of time left for you spamming him won't be that long. It's also really strong when your tank's taking damage and then other members of your raid start taking damage. You can just cocoon your tank and then focus on healing everyone else. This is a general tip I would give to players. If your rest of the group's taking a lot of damage and you're like struggling to heal them, just cocoon your tank and start healing other players. Your tank won't die for the period of time because he is cocoon, and it gives you time, like breathing space, to pick everyone up. By the time the cocoon wears off, they'll all be back up to full HP. That's pretty much it for monk healing. Cooldown usage. You also have stuff like Nimble Brew, which is really useful if you get CC. Just getting out of CC instantly is nice. And you got your Jade. You can use Crackling Jade, or Crackling Jade Lightning, whenever you want to just do a little bit of damage and you can't go in melee. You can just use this, and it's just something to do when there's no damage, and or when it's not safe to go into Crane and you just want the damage. You should use Jade Lightning. Now I'll talk to you about the DPS for anyone who doesn't really know much about it. The DPS, you generally want to get your buffs up first. So you will, when you switch into it, you want to get your Tiger Palm up on the boss, because you ignore 30% armor, so you do more damage. So it's more healing from Eminence. And you also need to have your statue next to you, because it's a 20 yard range. So have your statue next to you, have Tiger Palm up, get the buff up, and then you want to get Rise and Sun Kick debuff, and you want to get your Blackout Kick debuff, which is it's a crit buff. You'll want to have, I think it's, I can't remember off the top of my head, I think it's a 30% crit chance with the buff up. I can go hit a dummy and you can see, for instance. You'll want to, basically you want to keep that buff up, and once you get the buffs up, you'll just want to start using Rise and Sun Kick. Pretty much you want to just spam Rise and Sun Kicks when you're doing the damage. It does a lot of damage and it makes up a lot. So like here you go, 44, and then I get the buff up, and here you go, here's the buff. There's 20% crit chance. Okay, so you want that buff up, you want Tiger Power buff, and then you can DPS into it. You also get your Vital Miss, which obviously reduces mana cost, and it's instant. You don't want to take the glyph, you want to have the actual heal so you can target it, so you can heal people who need the heal. And pretty much when you're DPSing, you should try and get some tell me when or that, so it tells you what buffs you have up. For instance, like I have the buffs, so I know like the debuff, I see the debuff on it. I don't really track that one, but I have the other ones, so I know my buffs are up, so I know I can just spam Rise of Sun Kick more. You should also have a monitor of, I have Expel Harm, so I know I got that self heal. I also have my brew and my tea, and obviously my mana tea stacks. You'll want to have a monitor for that, and you also want a monitor for your mana pot, so you know you have that. You can have monitor for other things like your other cooldowns, and you can do that if you want, but these are the ones I felt necessary. You want your DPS buffs up, and you also want to have tracking your mana tea, your new mists, your focus, thunder focus tea, and you want to have a view of mana pot and how many mana tea stacks you have. 100%, you want to know that. You also have cocoon, you can put that on there. I generally look down my bars quite for those cooldowns. I generally know when I need them. For certain pros I know when I need them. And revival, obviously, you can make a thing for that as well. But that's pretty much sums up. Like, I would get some kind of thing sorted here, so you know all the codings and so tracking and stuff. There's a lot of things to track, and pretty much this is my video on it. They're fine in gold. If you have any like questions or whatever, you can also like leave it on the video. I'll try and answer it. But yeah, they're good. Don't believe the haters, guys. Like, they are good. You can do it. It's about knowing your limits as a healer, and it's about don't get stuck in the uplift mentality of AoE healing. Use your soothing mist surging to heal people up fast, because your uplift it isn't going to do enough to AoE heal people up. Try and keep it so you have control and you don't lose control of people's health bars. And whenever AoE healing happens, remember to use T-Burst. Like, I can't stress this enough. Remember to use T-Burst. Try and position yourself to use it. It will help a lot in the long run. And remember, always keep your renew mists up. And pretty much your tank, keep involved in mists, keep them up. When AoE healing happens, you should be able to cope with it with the technique I'm saying, the soothing, surging mist heals. You should be able to do this. Should be fine, guys. Trust me. Remember to use your cooldowns. Don't ignore them. You'll be fine. And that's pretty much the end of the video. I hope you guys like it. I hope you learn something about it, and I hope you guys get gold as well. I hope I see more Mistweavers on the rankings or the leaderboards with me. It's lonely, so please have fun and keep playing.